Recorder, the Marion Stokes project, is a classic example of the premise being vastly more interesting than the execution. That premise stems from the obsessive recording of television broadcasts, primarily news and current affairs, undertaken by a former librarian and civil rights activist from Philadelphia, Marion Stokes. Stokes, a black woman, was initially concerned about portrayals of black people in the civil rights movement of television news, but eventually amplified her interest to pretty much all current affairs, as portrayed on US television networks. By the time she died, aged 83 in 2012, she had amassed more than 70,000 VHS and Betamax cassettes containing more than 800,000 hours of footage, much of which was deleted from the archives of the broadcasters themselves. After her death, her family sought someone to take charge of this incredible, if overwhelming, archive, with the San Francisco-based non-profit organisation The Internet Archive stepping up to the task and aiming to digitise as much material as they were able and provide it to the public for access. And that sounded really interesting to me. 35 years of news coverage in which it should be possible to spot trends and overlooked matters that, in hindsight, were of major importance. There are any number of interesting narratives that could have been built from the material, even with the limitation that only a fraction of it has so far been reviewed. What a disappointment then that makes up perhaps 10 to 15 minutes of this hour-and-a-half long documentary, with the rest the story of Marion Stokes herself. And I simply don't care. Parts of her story are interesting, and it's certainly valid, even necessary, to put some of it in there for flavour, but it's what the whole film is about. What a total bust. This is exacerbated by that spectacularly irritating modern documentary conceit, the reconstruction. Though here that is in large part scenes of the back of the head of a woman in a wig being driven around Philadelphia. It's actually laughable. Even the few bits of footage that are shown are not as impactful as the director, Matt Wolfe, clearly thinks they are. In one section, 4 videos are shown together, running in real time, from a little before 9 a.m. on the 11th of September 2001, from ABC, CBS, Fox News, and one other, MSNBC, I think. It begins with the first network describing a possible plane strike in the World Trade Center, with the other networks gradually, over the course of a few minutes, reporting the story. With Fox News, who had been showing some vapid morning TV stuff, being last. It can't be doubted that this is a dig at Fox News, who are, let us be scrupulously clear, evil and harmful, but there's nothing here. No one could have known at that time what was going on, and it's literally a few minutes before Fox also pick up the story. George W. sitting in that classroom, this is not. The footage itself is mildly interesting, but it's a cheap shot, which is crazy given how many easy, legitimate targets Fox News offers each and every day. If, like me, your interest is piqued by the idea of the archive, then just go and check out the Internet Archive, where many of the clips are available, often searchable with keywords, thanks to the closed captioning many of the recordings contained, and give Recorder a body swerve. What a sad waste.
Well, I've got good news for Marion Stokes. If we invert her videotapes, then in 30 years' time, she'll be able to use them again.
I've not seen
Might
this.
even find a Betamax player.
I've not seen this, so I'm only commenting what you said there, Drew, is you thought this was sounded like an interesting premise. And I read this premise and thought, no, that doesn't sound like an interesting premise, and avoided it. So, seems like I made the right decision there.
I
hadn't even got a clue what it was until you started talking about it, Drew. So
the premise is so it's like this idea is like there's just a massive archive, and it's like even just dipping into random, think what kind of interesting gems you might be able to find. And then it's like no, there's basically none of that. It's all about the person who did it, and like okay, that's not an hour and a half worth. It's not interesting. It's not important. It's not. It doesn't matter. This like you stick a bit in there about like why she did it, who she was. Fair enough. And then, but no, it's the whole film. It's like, and I suppose I should just be thankful that it didn't become one of those films where actually the documentary's about the documentary maker. And I'm so sick of those. I hate those with a passion, and they're so common nowadays. It's like, this is about. I said, here's my story. Actually, but what my actual story is me and my struggle to make this story. But me. And it's not that, fortunately. But it's just, what a waste of an interesting idea, I thought.